Bonjour. Comment ça va?
Ça va, c'est pas trop mauvais.
Pas trop mauvais. T'as bonne mine pour un vieux jeton?
Pas de bêtises, hein?
Bon, bonjour, Père. Warren Perrin. J'ai été élevé dans la paroisse Vermillon, south of Abbeville. I'm
ouais.
from Henry.
Oh, ouais.
I'm sure you knew all the priests in Henry, going all the way back. Father Verheem, we had
Oh, yes.
Father Verheem.
Well,
Yeah. He'd do a good French Mass. And now we have Father Manning, the healing priest in Henry.
oh, ouais.
Yeah.
Ils font vraiment bien.
Oh, ouais, il fait une bonne messe. I want to ask you a few questions about your life, and then I want to talk about your relationship and your support of Charlene Richard,
Sure.
the Little Cajun Saint.
Yes.
You were born in Cecilia.
I was born in Cecilia, Louisiana.
When?
When? I was born there on November 28th, 1926.
Wow. In the middle of the Depression, huh? Just about the beginning.
Oh, it pushed us to Beaumont, not Beaumont, Port Arthur, Texas.
Going to Texas.
Well, in 1927, they had that flood.
Great flood.
And then as a farmer, he lost everything. So we had to move. And we stayed, my mother was asthmatic, and it's a smoky city, Port Arthur, so they couldn't stay there. So they came back to Cecilia.
He went back into farming.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet potatoes and cotton.
Cotton, sweet potatoes, and sugar cane. Basically, that was it.
So you knew how to milk a cow.
The cows were unhappy when they saw me.
Y'all milked the cow twice a day, morning and the afternoon?
We did, yeah.
Had to do it. I did it too. I did it before I went to school.
I did, yeah. I did it too. What I had to do on the farm that I didn't like doing was picking cotton.
Go. You ever picked 100 pounds of cotton in one day?
I would tell them I did.
My mama wanted me to pick cotton so bad she made my own sack. I had a little sack because I was too small for a big sack.
Yeah. I remember one time, Daddy and I were on the same row. He was on one side, I was on the other. And bad weather came up. So Daddy wanted to hurry. And he looked at me. My lips were moving. He said, Flo. That's my nickname. He said, Flo, you're not praying for rain, are you? I was.
Oh. Did you ever put a brick in the sack to make it heavy?
Nah.
No.
No, I didn't have to do that. I didn't get paid.
That's right. So, what was your dad's name?
Theord.
And your mother?
Eileen.
And Eileen, and what was her family name?
LeBlanc.
Okay, that's a big family.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They got, il y a plus de Leblanc que les Fromés.
Tu parles.
So, when did it first come to you that you had a calling to become a priest?
I started talking about it when I was 13 years old.
What was your inspiration? Did it come to you, or someone encouraged you, or both?
The first priest that I remember, he was tough. And I remember one day in catechism class saying, Lord, if I ever become a priest, please don't let people be afraid of me as I'm afraid of that old priest.
They weren't.
You remember his name?
Oh, yes. I wrote a book, and there's pictures in the first, every priest who came to Sicilia is in that book.
Every priest? Oh, okay.
You know, Father Perrin was the first one. Then, you know, later on when I was more mature, I started thinking, you have to admire that guy and all those who came from overseas to bring the faith to Louisiana. And when I kissed my mom and dad goodbye, I went to go to the seminary. I think it's about 160 miles to St. Ben from Sicilia. So that was, I knew it'd be back and forth. But when he left and he kissed his mom and dad goodbye, he wasn't coming back. That was before the jet age. And I began to feel sorry for him, because after all, he brought the faith, and he did the best he could to teach it. So, but I was serious about wanting to be a priest when I was, really when I was 10 years old. I left home when I was 13, I believe, to go to the seminary. And I'm an only child.
Oh.
Must have been hard on your mom and daddy.
Oh, yeah, it was. Yes. My mom went to Mass every day that I was in the seminary.
Oh, that's nice.
When my daddy retired, he joined my mother, and he went every day. And here I am.
And you had their undying support.
Oh, I did. Oh, yes.
And your experience in the seminary, what was it like? What do you recall your best moments in the seminary?
Well, I'll tell you something funny. When I went to register, the rector, the guy who ran the show there, he said, what's your name? Floyd Calais. What's wrong with your mother? I said, well, maybe a lot of things that I don't know about, but what are you talking about? Didn't you know that Floyd's not a saint's name? And I said, oh yes, Father, she well aware of that. But she loved that name so much, she was hoping someday there would be a saint by that name.
You?
And she got her wish.
Beautiful story.
Yeah,
And she was asthmatic?
yeah.
Did you ever overcome it, or?
Oh, yeah. That last attack was in the seminary.
And what was the reason that she overcame it? Do you know?
A lot of prayers.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
said everyone was
Yeah.
praying. You said everyone in the seminary was praying for her, right?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
They knew.
You had a request that everybody prayed for her in the seminary?
Not that I recall, but I'm sure once they found out, they prayed for her, you know.
Yeah.
So how long were you in the seminary?
I was at St. Ben in Covington 3 years. I was at Notre Dame in New Orleans 6 years. So 9 years in all.
Okay. And where and when did you do your first Mass?
My first Mass was, I was ordained on June 3rd, 1950. And my first Mass was the next day, June 4th, in Sicilia.
In Sicilia, nice.
Yeah, because that's where I'm from.
Yeah.
So usually you went back to where you were from.
And were your mama and dad still alive then in 50?
Thank God, yes.
Good. Yeah. Did you ever hear your confession of your parents?
But no, but I'll tell you a strong story. I went to visit my grandmother one day, and she says, Neg. That was a nickname,
Right.
Neg. Do you have in favor? I thought you wanted a glass of water or something, you know. I said, oh, well. And j'aimerais, la confession avec toi.
So she asked you to make a confession of you. That was her special request.
Yeah.
You must have been touched by that.
Oh. Yeah, your grandmother?
And it was all in French.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And did you ever give her communion?
Well, I'll bring a communion to the house.
Okay. Right. What was her name?
Josephine.
Josephine. She was the LeBlanc?
I don't know what her maiden name was.
Okay.
Might have been Angel, I'm not sure.
Yeah, a lot of Angels in Sicilia.
Oh, man. Tu parles.
So, your first assignment was at which parish?
St. Peter, New Iberia.
Oh, yeah, nice. And how long were you at St. Peter's?
6 years.
That's a beautiful church.
It is. I was there when they built it.
Wow. Wow. Now, of course, New Iberia was settled by the Spanish. We know that.
Yeah.
Galvez was our Spanish governor. And in the 1780s, he brought people from Spain to settle New Iberia. Did you notice that they had a different way of viewing their religion, or as Cajuns, or was it almost all the same?
Oh, no, almost all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary is the patron saint of the Acadian people as designated by the Pope. And the flag, of course, has represented the gold star of Mary and the gold castle of Spain. It's interesting, they're both on the flag. It's an important part of our culture. It's just so endemic to our Cajun culture, the Catholic faith.
Yeah.
It's synonymous.
Yeah.
And you've always been in Cajun parishes, right? Where did you go after St. Peter's?
Cathedral.
Wow. My wife, Mary Broussard, was at Mount Carmel when you were at Cathedral.
Oh.
Yeah. And she says to me often that you were a beloved priest. You didn't make anybody nervous or mad. You were a jokester.
Yeah, I was.
How long were you at Cathedral?
4 years.
And that was Bishop Jamar was
Yeah.
bishop of the parish, of the whole diocese.
Bishop Jean-Mard, he confirmed me and he ordained me.
All right. I was an altar boy in Henry, and he came to do a mass one time, and he fell asleep on the altar. We had to wake him up. He had drifted off.
Bishop Schexnayder would do that too.
Yeah.
He would come to 9:30 Mass at Cathedral. In those days, bishops didn't travel that much, you know. But he'd come to 9:30 Mass. And after a while, he'd fall asleep. So, and I usually had a little joke, you know. So one Friday, one Sunday morning, I told a joke and he was sleeping. When people laughed, I woke him up. So, in the sacristy after Mass, he said, he told a joke, he said. I said, yeah. He said, you know, the acoustics are bad. He said, I didn't get the punchline. He said, do you mind telling? I said, no, not at all. So I told him, and then the next episode with him, he said, no, after Mass, he had come to 9:30 Mass, and there was an ordination the day before, on Saturday. And he forgot his mitre in the sacristy. So when I came to him, I saw it. I said to, you remember what was it? He was like the sacristan. He's a black man. So I said, what do you think I ought to do? He said, Father said, try it out. He said, how you look? So they put the mitre on me.
Ooh.
And I'm walking up and down in the sacristy like a bishop. I never heard the back door open.
Oh, you got busted?
Well, no, he was very gentle. So that he walked, when I turned around, he's like this, looking at me. Now that was Bishop Schexnayder. He said, you look good. You look good. He said, you're just a little bit too young.
Good story. So, when did you go? You were at St. Teresa in Abbeville?
Yeah, 1968.
Okay, so Senator Dudley J. LeBlanc, the Hatticall man, was still alive then. I'm sure you saw him many
I
times.
was told to tell you about him.
I want to hear it. I know he put up the statue of St. Teresa.
Well, that's okay. We knew each other very well, of course, you know. And I was giving out communion one Saturday morning. And when his son Roland came to communion, he said, Pop just died.
Oh.
So I went back to the house and I said, oh my God, thank God I'm not in Abbey at St. Teresa as the pastor. Although I was the pastor, yeah. So anyway, I said, thank God I won't have that funeral. Roland, the phone rings. It's Roland. He said, Father, we had a family group meeting, and we decided we'd like you to do the Pop's funeral. I said, well, so it goes. What do you say, you know, at Dudley LeBlanc's funeral? Hatticall was a big thing. So I said, well, I'll have to do it. This is what I did. I had the homily. I said, what do you expect me to say at this funeral? I said, I know what you're thinking, but you're wrong. I said, you think I'm going to talk about Hatticall. I said, I'm just going to talk about, this is probably the first thing God said to him. Not what about Hatticall, but thank you so much for raising 6 wonderful children. His kids were good. And that was it.
Nice. Nice. And he was known for his love and devotion to Saint Teresa.
Yeah. But I didn't know that too much at the time. But he was a great salesman.
Yes. Yes.
He knew how to sell.
When he sold those burial policies, he'd give people a little tea set, and they had a beautiful emblem on it, and they would pay for the funeral, but he would put his emblem on their gravestones. So you go in the Erath Cemetery, you have a bunch of, they're still advertising, perpetual advertising in the graveyard. He was a genius.
Well, in front of St. Teresa Church, a beautiful statue. He paid for that.
And he paid for many others throughout South Louisiana.
He did.
Quite a man.
Yeah.
Quite a legacy. He was a native of Erath, our hometown, where we have the Acadian Museum, which I'd love for you to come see us one day in Erath and show it to you. We have a big exhibit on Dudley LeBlanc.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I just got the recipe for hadacol was just donated to our museum. So if you ever want to make a batch of hadacol, I got the recipe.
It was my dad's mother. She had some kind of problem, and she took hadacol. And she, it helped her.
13% alcohol didn't hurt either.
Well, I wasn't going to say that.
C'est vrai. Well, you concluded your wonderful career at the Holy Cross Church, where Mary and I attended many of your masses. So you were there for about 12 years?
At
Holy Cross?
I was there not quite, close to 12 years, yeah.
From 83, you started about 83?
82.
2? Okay.
And I left in 82. It was 12 years. I left in I went to, retired from
Holy Cross?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're still nearby. You can almost throw a stone and hit the church from where you're living now.
Yeah. You're right, yeah.
Well, Father Calais, I'd like to ask you to share with me whatever you want to share about the Little Cajun Saint. I'm on the commission. I'm writing her biography with Father Escalante from Rome. Louis Escalante is giving me directions and requests to write. And I've written about a 30-page draft. I'm going to leave it with you. At your leisure, you can read it.
Okay.
If you find any mistakes or you want to add anything, I'll come back later and meet with you. But just for now, just tell me the first time you heard the name Charlene Richard. Was that from Father Brennan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was said that I was retired, but I did from parish work. But I was a chaplain of the hospital, the charity hospital.
Okay.
I think I did some good work there, but it was not need me. I'm an outgoing person. I wanted to do more than just go sit. But I remember one day there was a man, he was sitting by himself under an oak tree there, and he looked so sad, so I went to talk to him. I was chaplain at the time. And I said, is there anything I can do for you? He said, I brought my daughter here to have a baby a couple of days ago, and they won't tell me anything about how she's doing. They won't let me see her. I said, well, I'll find out. So I went and got, of course, you know, with that information, I went in and came back and said, listen, the child was born yesterday, and both are doing good, and you're going home tomorrow.
Oh.
Made me happy to see him happy. But I wanted to do more. I really wanted to be in a parish. So Father Brennan, I told that to Father Brennan. He said, did you tell Charlene? I said, wait a minute, Charlene's not the bishop. And he said, tell Charlene. Yes, Joe. So I started praying to Charlene. 2 weeks after that, I got a letter from Bishop Schexnayder appointing me pastor of St. Edmund Church, Richard, Louisiana. So I called him.
And Richard was where Charlene was buried.
Oh my
Right.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah, 2 weeks after. So I said, Joe, I got good news and bad news. He said, what's the good news? I said, I got a parish, brother. He said, well, what could be the bad news? I said, I don't know where it is.
Of course, Richard's a little bitty hamlet,
Nowhere.
not even a town.
Yeah.
C'est dans la campagne.
He said, well, let's go look for it. So he and I took off. We went to Richard. We went to Acadia Parish.
Right.
And we're looking, and there's Richard. So we went to the door. He rang the doorbell. The priest I replaced, he and Father Brennan did not know, believe it or not, where Charlene was from.
Wow.
What?
No. They would see each other when they'd visit.
At the hospital.
Yeah.
At Lourdes.
Yes.
Okay.
And he had never been to her gravesite?
No, they didn't even know.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess
So-
it wasn't well known yet.
Father Brennan was at Fatima at the time. So Fatima was responsible for visiting the patients in the hospital. So he, and Charlene's mother wanted Charlene to know that she was dying. That's a tough job to do. So this is the way it was. Father Brennan was ordained a priest only a year and a half. And he's asked to go tell a young lady, you're going to die. So the first thing he said was, honey, you're a very sick little girl. She said, I know that, Father. Well, I know that, Father. Soon a beautiful lady will come to take you home. Or you're speaking of our Blessed Mother. When she comes, I will say to her, please be good to Father Brennan, because when I was sick, he was good to me. And she lived on another three weeks. And Father Brennan, being assistant at Fatima, one of their responsibilities, the priest at Fatima, was to visit the sick. And every time Father Brennan walked in that room, the first thing she would say was, Father, what would you like me to suffer for today?
She gave up her suffering
Yeah.
in the hopes of helping other people get
Yeah.
well. And many of those people did get well. That's where the beginning of the legacy
Right.
took place, in that room 411 at Lourdes
That's right.
Hospital.
Now, sometimes the priest who was the pastor in Richard, he would visit Charlene. He was the pastor, and he and Father Brennan would meet in that room, and the number on the door was 411, and they had to take those numbers down because everybody who went to the hospital went to be in room 411 because of good things happening. So they met when we found Richard, rang the doorbell, that priest came to the door.
So he knew Brennan.
Yeah, he said, Father Brennan, would you like to see where Charlene is buried? I said, wait a minute. Charlene Richard is buried here? He said, yes, she'll be your closest neighbor.
No.
Cemetery is next door to the house.
The St. Edward's Church.
Yeah. And so that Brennan got a lot of good stuff from her. And I'm telling you, the first, I would consider it a miracle, but I'll tell you about it. I was pastor at Richard, yeah, I mean, Holy Cross. And a bell rang the doorbell about 5 o'clock one evening. I went to the door. He was crying so hard I didn't understand what he was saying. When I finally got it out of him, this is what he was crying about. He said, we found out this morning that my 3-year-old grandchild has leukemia.
Oh, the same thing that killed Charlene.
Yeah. That Charlene has, my granddaughter had found out that she has an inoperable tumor in her abdomen, and it's too large to remove. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, tomorrow, and on the way there, I'll tell you why I'm asking you to do that. Let's go to the grave and ask her for help. So we get there and said, Charlene, please ask God to help this young child. And they had given her chemo. And we went that Sunday. The surgery was on Wednesday. We had gone there on Sunday. They operated on Wednesday. Not a sound of a tumor.
The tumor had disappeared?
Yeah.
Amazing. Sounds like a miracle to me.
But so, did they know that it was shrinking because they had said it was too big and they couldn't operate on her?
Well, they did what's that?
Ultrasound?
Yeah.
Ultrasounds at the time?
Yes.
So it had appeared on a test result?
Yeah, it was, yeah. So then they did operate to find out. Sure enough, it was good, yeah.
Do you know if that particular incident is part of the cause that's being submitted in support of her canonization? Because I'm led to understand there's over 1,600 purported miracles that are credited to Charlene.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So the little girl got well after the surgery?
Oh, yes.
Did the little girl get well?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So you must have had a good relationship with the family after that.
Oh, yeah. The mother prayed to her after she died and said, Charlene, ask God to give you another little girl. Well, be careful what you ask. She got pregnant, but she had 2 little girls.
Twins? Ooh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Awesome story. Awesome story. So we know that she's beloved, and we know that when she will become a saint, I don't know if you ever thought of this, she will be the first American saint as a child. Every other American saint were adults. So there will be a lot of firsts. She will also be the first Cajun or Acadian saint in the world. And we're about 5 million Cajuns in the world today, and she would be the only one ever canonized, which I think would be wonderful for the culture. She would be a great...
It would be.
Another thing that I find fascinating, that her cause came from the people. It didn't come from the top down. It came from the people. It was people like you that gathered these stories that perpetuated this cause. And we still see it today, very strong.
Yeah. And to listen to the people who would come there, pray, and they come tell me, you know, what kind of help they had gotten. A man came one day. He came from Abbeville. He had gone to see the doctor in Houston at that hospital, all sick, I mean, the people with...
MD Anderson?
Yeah.
The cancer hospital?
Yes. This guy was a lawyer, and he was from Abbeville. He had been told that he had a tumor, malignant tumor in his body. So he came to pray. I was no longer there. I was at Holy Cross. He came to see me to tell me that he had gone to the hospital. Examination proved that no cancer. And things like that, you know, they'd come and tell me.
Wow.
I wish I knew how many have done that, but I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a name for what this is? Is there a special name for a vessel of a relic that you know of?
Well, you know,
Reliquarium.
you made the benediction, just benediction. This is called a monstrance.
Monstrance?
And it fits in. You know, you open it up. It's bigger than this, of course, and you put the Eucharist, the host, consecrated host, in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm having the privilege of holding is what was a relic, what was removed, a piece of bone from Charlene after she was exhumed last December. Is that what your understanding is? And Father Luis Escalante was in charge of that exhumation to confirm her presence in the ground,
Right.
and to preserve relics for the future. And it's my understanding that Father Escalante came here and presented you with parts of her hair, and you were able to hold it for the first time. Is that correct? How did that make you feel, Father Calais?
It wasn't hair.
It wasn't? It was in a bag?
No, it was the bone itself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is contained in this vessel.
Yeah.
And how did it make you feel that Father Escalante presented you with this?
I was just elated, just really felt great that I had come so close to touching the little girl.
I'm going to introduce Kathy Hardy, who is with us today, sharing some memories of the exhumation and the following of the exhumation of Charlene, which was last December. Would you share a few remembrances with us, Kathy?
Yes, I am the wife of Charles Hardy, whose great uncle is Nonco Pilafed,
Oh, yeah.
who is another
Right.
candidate from Acadiana being considered for sainthood. And the third is Verbus Lafleur. And Nonco and Charlene were both made servants of God on the same day. And you had a beautiful speech about Charlene and why she deserved to be a servant of God. And as time goes on, the postulator who is working both for Charlene and for Nonco's causes moving forward to sainthood is Father Louis Escalante. And I happen to be friendly with him through the Nonco organization. And Father Louis was involved in the exhumation of Charlene, and the exhumation happened kind of under the cover of darkness. There was the doctor who was present at the exhumation happens to be a miracle. He is the great nephew of Nonco, and he's a miraculous case that is being considered for Nonco's canonization going forward. He was at the exhumation, and then they had the funeral home involved in the exhumation. And the purpose of the exhumation, as Father Louis explained to me, was that to prove that Charlene is actually in the grave, because Father Louis said in the past, sometimes the person being considered for canonization, for sainthood, they were not actually in the grave. So they were confirming that, number one, she was in the grave. They were also looking to gather relics. And when they opened her grave, and it was a very holy ceremony, some of her relatives were present at the exhumation, and the priest from the parish, the current priest, her grave was full of water. And so they spent a long time removing the water from the grave, and then they were able to take the coffin out, and it was a very modest wooden coffin. And the doctor examined her and made sure that the information that they had as to cause of death, as best to his ability, was correct, and they were able to retrieve, and they did cut a large piece of her hair, about that much of her hair, and Father Louis put that in a container, and then they took some of her bones from her little fingers, and the funeral home gave her a brand new coffin, a beautiful coffin, and they had a ceremony and placed her back into a coffin and put her back into her grave. And I can't remember if it was that evening or the next day, but Father Louis and I came with him, as did my husband. We came over to visit you, and he brought 2 containers. One had the bones. They were like Tupperware containers. One had the bones and one had Charlene's hair in the container. and he put those on your lap, and you were so touched you could hardly speak. I remember it well. It was a very moving moment. And
where was that?
you were sitting right here.
Really?
Yes, it was. It's been over a year ago that he brought that, because a year ago, Father Louis just happened to be coming back into town. He was working on the Nonco cause, and he had these relics made. And so a year ago, and he was unaware that it was her birthday and that they were going to be having the big mass. And so I went with him to the beautiful mass, and that he presented the family with a relic, and I came with him when he brought you a relic, and that was a year ago. The exhumation was a little before that. So that's really the time frame for... But I have a question about a relic. I thought to have a relic, you had to be a saint to have a relic. So I know we consider her the Little Cajun Saint, but she has not been confirmed as a saint yet by Rome, and until some of the until they confirm the miracles, which I have found out, and I think this is beautiful about a miracle, that a miracle, the reason that the Vatican requires miracles is God's confirmation that this person is a saint. And that's why they're so specific about the fact that a miracle, they can't, if there's any medical intervention that may explain the healing or whatever, that's not considered a miracle, though it could well be, but they want very specific. So an example I have of a true miracle would be, I'm praying at Charlene's grave and I'm blind, and all of a sudden I can see and it's permanent. That's a very simple example of a miracle. But can you answer as to why it's allowed in the Catholic Church to have a relic, and she's not yet a saint?
It's pretty close, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Kathy, thank you very much for sharing that.
You were at the St. Jude's Church, was it that night? I gave a talk about...
Yes, we were there.
And I had thought of bringing the little girl with me. And I said, no, well, maybe she wouldn't like that.
Oh, uh-huh.
But her aunt took her. I didn't know she was there.
She was there.
I didn't know.
Wow.
So when
This was when, and I'm not sure the name, it was the church by the Carmelite Monastery, the big church. That's where the opening up for the causes for both Charlene and for Nonco happened. It was a beautiful mass. Father Louis was there. That's when, weren't you there? Because you, oh no.
No.
They commissioned all the people that were involved in the canonization process. I remember those commissioned for Noncos. I can't remember so much for Charlene at that mass. But yes, and it was right near the Carmelite Monastery. And they asked for someone to speak up. I remember this well because no one was quite as prepared as you, and you were the first to speak. So the person that had to follow you to talk about Nonco was quite intimidated. And Nonco doesn't have the history. Nonco is quite different from Charlene in that Charlene is, little Cajun, a young girl, and she has many, many miracles that have been attributed to her. Nonco is just a very simple man who basically, he has a following of people from Orneville who consider him to be a saint, and that is what is spurring the movement for all of our Cajun saints, is that the people in the community recognize them to be holy people. And God is going to confirm that they are, that they're in heaven, and they inspire us, and people like you inspire us, that we as simple people can be saints. And your beautiful talk that day inspired many, many people.
In the history of this area for 200 years, they honored people, Governor Mouton, Maurice Hyman. She's the only child that has brought so much goodwill to our area. I think it's phenomenal that she has such widespread respect and love. And do you pray to her every day?
I sit by her every day, by this relic.
Can you do me a favor? Next time you pray to her, would you ask her to try to heal the world? To heal all the problems that we're going through in the world today.
It's healing.
Healing. Can you ask her to help heal? Well, thank you very much for spending some time and sharing these precious memories with us.
My pleasure.
Merci beaucoup.
I'd like to say one thing. I don't think it was an accident. I mean, I think it was well planned that you were sent to Richard because you tell the stories so well. I think you were chosen for that reason, because the after effects of you being there continue and continue and continue. So I think it was meant to be by God. So, did you feel humbled to be put there, or it just hadn't gotten that big yet? How long after she died were you sent there?
Well, let's see.
Warren's amazing.
She died, it was in 59. It was August the 11th.
August the 11th, he's right.
August the 11th, to set the record straight. Touché.
Well, there's going to be a huge mass there this coming August the 11th.
August the 11th,
Yeah.
1959. Merci pour votre soutien.
Sultan ou soutien?
Soutien. Pas sultan.
Y a pas de quoi.
Okay. Merci. Soutane is a vestment, and soutien is support. He caught the words are so close.
One of my favorite stories, I think, that you told, I don't know if that you told it, are you, you've been? It had to do with when you arrived in Richard and you were looking for the church, and you stopped and asked some young man, and he for directions, and he asked you what you were looking for, and you said the church, that you were going to be the new pastor of the church, and he made some comment to the effect, well, you can't find your way around. How do you think you're going to lead the?
Oh.
What is that story?
That was another story.
Would you tell it?
Yeah, I was asked to give a mission in this town. I forget the name of it now.
Okay. This was unrelated.
So, but I wasn't sure where it was. But she directs me. So anyway, I saw this little boy riding a bike. I went the Sunday before the mission.
That's right.
So I said, can you tell me where the church is? He was riding a bike. He stopped. He said, it's right down the road. So I'll be giving a mission there next week. He said, what's a mission? I said, well, you know, I'll be talking about God, how to find God. But he said, You can't even find the church. He said, how are you going to tell us how to find God?
I love it.
So,
Cute story. Cute story. We have a good friend who's from Richard. His name is Pat Meir. He's a filmmaker. And he started the Bayou Film Festival. And I wanted to get stories about Charlene to include in her book. So I called Pat. I said, did you know Charlene? I said, somebody said she liked to swim. I said, did y'all have a swimming pool when you were growing up in Richard? No, he said, we swam in the rice canals. I said, did you know Charlene? He said, I married her sister, Anna.
oh, no kidding.
Yes. And he says, I know she swam in the rice canal because one time I went underwater, I was drowning, and she saved my life. She pulled him out of the water.
Really?
Yes. So we're going to include that story in the book that we're writing about her life.
Oh, good.
And I'm going to leave this with you to read it at your convenience.
Yeah, good.
Merci beaucoup.
Oh, yeah, pas de quoi.